There are a lot of great reasons to start a business here. One reason that it might be easier is because there's not as much pressure. It's kind of like fishing. A lot of boats going to catch the same fish, not a lot of fish left. Here, there are a lot of people that are moving here. There's a lot of fantastic talent, and I think right now is a fantastic time to be here. If I was starting a company in New Orleans right now, it'd be incredibly exciting because it'd kind of be like a bonanza of talent and energy. When you are immersed or you're in the midst of all this energy, it's incredibly exciting. I started the company 13 years ago, and so we were really early in the sort of consumer internet play here in New Orleans, and there were a lot of challenges starting up back then. Not a lot of mentors that had been there, done that experience. But then again, in the mid to late 90s, there weren't a lot of .com success stories anyway. They really started emerging later. So it was a vacuum of knowledge to start a company at that point that was specifically focused on consumer technology products. But over the last 13 years, the city's evolved quite a bit, and I think most dramatically since Katrina, quite frankly. One of the nice things about having started a company here in New Orleans and having started it a while ago is that actually now, and being able to sustain the business, I have at least 5 or 6 people that have worked for me that have gone on to become C-level executives or founders of companies here in New Orleans. So that's an exciting thing for me because that means that not only am I still in business, but people that have worked for me have gone on and created things too. There's a group of enthusiastic entrepreneurs here in New Orleans that are starting technology companies, or a variety of different companies for social reasons or for technology purposes. And the difference between the group of people starting companies now as opposed to when I was starting iSeats is that a lot of these folks have been there, done that experience, and actually have some real relationships and some social and political capital that they can bring to bear when they're starting these companies. So the quality of entrepreneurs that is here now as opposed to over a decade ago, it's just light years ahead. So it's actually inspiring for me to be around other entrepreneurs that are starting businesses, whether it's a school think tank in my office building or another small technology company. Listening and being in the proximity of other entrepreneurs, no matter what you're doing, is always energizing for me. I don't sell New Orleans. New Orleans sells itself for me. I sell my business, and I sell the reason that I want my company to be successful is not just for me or for my shareholders. That's a big part of it. But really what I'd like to do here is build something in New Orleans in terms of my business, a technology company that hasn't really been done before and that there wasn't any blueprint for. And if I do a good job of selling iSeats, the reason that we're in New Orleans is apparent because I don't want to just be successful. I want to actually be involved in the community. I want to be successful in my mission, and part of my mission is helping to rebuild the city. The city is incredibly inspiring. You can go from neighborhood to neighborhood and see ideas that you would have if you were to be involved in the city. I mean, there's so much opportunity to change the city right now that everything about the city for me is inspiring, with the exception of maybe some of the areas that are just sort of milk toast and homogeneous. But New Orleans is about diversity, and diversity is inspiration. Or diversity, I think, is a key factor in inspiration. And that's what I believe about my staff, and that's what I believe about the city. It's an incredible place. There was a major inflection point where there have been a lot of evolution. iSeats has evolved quite a lot over the last 13 years. We started off as a source for online restaurant reservations for hotel concierge. And then now we've emerged into an e-commerce platform development company. My company hit a major inflection point at Katrina, frankly, when the obvious answer was move out of New Orleans because New Orleans was busted. The infrastructure here was pretty bad, and so we kept an office here after Katrina, but moving up to New York provided me with a swift kick in the pants in terms of setting my expectations for what it meant to be successful. When I came back from New York post-Katrina, coming into New Orleans, I had a lot more burn to sort of take the company to the next level. And I knew that I didn't want to do it in another city. I knew that I wanted to do it in New Orleans. And frankly, when I moved the company back from New York, which was basically an 18-month stint, making my company successful was not only about making my company successful, but it was doing it with a chip on my shoulder. Because when I left New York and came back to New Orleans after Katrina, everyone told me that it was a terrible idea. Everyone said, look at all the other companies that are leaving. Why are you going back? And I said, that's exactly why I'm going back. I'm going home. And if it turns into Atlantis, so be it. But I'm going to give it my best. And 7 years later, here's where my best is. Well, maybe almost my best. But I'm certainly trying hard. And I still carry that with me. I mean, there's not a year that goes by where some senior executive at a company says, why are you in New Orleans? Why is your company in New Orleans? And I say, well, because that's where I'm from. That's where I choose to be. And this is where I'm going to build my business. People were coming to New Orleans before Katrina, and they came afterwards for the same reason, which is the quality of life. You can't find it anywhere else. It doesn't matter how much money you make, and if you live in New York City, you can't have a New Orleans lifestyle. You can't drive down the avenue and with the oak cover overhang, with your top down on your convertible. You just can't get that anywhere else. You can't just stop into a dive bar and get blown away by the red beans and rice and pay $1 for a beer. That doesn't happen elsewhere. You don't get to drive through a diverse neighborhood to wind up into a beautiful home. That just doesn't happen elsewhere. So there are a lot of things about the city that were bringing people here before Katrina, and they're bringing people now. But I think the technology community also, being an entrepreneur, part of being entrepreneurial is having people say, you're crazy. What are you doing? Don't do it. Well, that's a lot of the same reasons people come to New Orleans, to say, you know what? I can do it, and I'm going to do it where I want. And why not do it in New Orleans?